Hillary has been lengthening her excuses as to why she lost the election. She didn't really lose the election. It was stolen from her by, I think it's up to 24 different excuses she has now. Number 24 is content farms in Macedonia. And as I said, my grandfather was a Macedonian content farmer, and we often think about, gathering on the porch and recalling the old days on the Macedonian he never thought that the old content farmers he left behind in Macedonia would one day steal the U.S. presidential election. They are gnarled, hard-working Macedonian peasants, and the way they were able to reach out and steal the election.
Okay, and I'm recording now. And, every now and then we need to kind of mix it up a bit. We don't have a planned intro, or we talked a little bit offline about subjects and whatnot. But this is the Macedonian Content Farmers Podcast, regardless of no intro. And we are recording this on Sunday, the 19th. No, the 18th.
I have no idea, honestly.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
And we say that. We actually use that, unlike Nancy Pelosi, who maybe had an aneurysm at the moment. We actually do say Dobro utro, thank you for realizing what I've been telling you all along. Good morning.
Good morning. Sunday morning. Although, in your case, it's afternoon. It's still Sunday morning here. It's 11:30 my time.
It's pitch dark here.
Pitch dark?
It gets dark.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 6:30 or something. I don't know.
Well, today's good morning. Sunday morning. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to include the video so people understand what we're talking about.
10 states, as I said, on Friday, I started their early voting the day that we lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
But to be clear, you're not taking any arrows out of your quiver. You're not ruling anything out.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
On Friday, it was 101 bloody degrees here. So, which is what, 39 Celsius?
Yeah, I think 100 is almost 40, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't end.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Nancy Pelosi or the weather or the darkness. Although I did talk to the reason I'm late this morning. Good morning. Sunday morning. Sorry. I'm not drinking. I'm drinking water. The reason I'm late is because I had a conversation with an Estonian friend, and he was telling me how it's about ready to get very dark there for the next 6 months, or at least the next 4 months. So, not here.
Well, they have
hey,
to
what do you think
there.
of? What's that?
Yeah, they have to be drinking there.
Oh yes. This Okay, so let's get serious this morning, Sunday morning. This statement supposedly from Biden-Harris on Albanian or U.S. relations with Albania and Kosovo. I know we talked about that a little bit offline. There was this tweet yesterday, I guess Saturday, from Rauf, what's his name?
Rauf Bajrović.
Yeah,
the
who's he
Bosnian
anyway?
DC. He's
U.S.-Europe Alliance co-chair. Okay.
Yeah, Bosnian fixer
Anyway.
in DC.
Yeah, okay, so he's in D.C. So he said, excellent statement by Biden, and then, quote, the alleged Biden quote is, quote, reverse the Trump administration's unbalanced approach toward Kosovo and Serbia, restoring fairness and equity in the relationships and working toward greater cooperation, unquote. Now, he typed that out, but he's tweeting Ruben Avihu, I guess. He's the
Avgiju, I think. Oh no, yeah,
whatever. With
Avgiju,
Illyria
Avgiju.
Press.
Yeah, he's
Illyria
New
Press,
Yorker, Albanian.
in New York. And when I click on the Illyria link, it looks like, I'm not convinced this is a Biden-Harris statement.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it is or not. It looks more like they kind of, it's a mashup of quotes and things like that. I don't know, though. It wouldn't be surprising.
I mean, it legit says that, Biden has this long investment in the Kosovo cause, essentially, and promoting Albanian interests in the Balkans. And it's no surprise that they would publish something like this. But, so you're not sure that it's new or purpose
or
made
real.
for the election.
It looks like it's a cut and paste job, but maybe it's not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But
it is definitely what he believes and what he relies
sure,
upon.
that's true. Yeah.
Albanians were shocked at Trump. Serbs were delighted. They hoped that they will gain something. We Macedonians also loved Trump's victory and apparently contributed to it a lot, if you trust Hillary Clinton. But again, Trump did not really manage to do any foreign policy in his term. He didn't really appoint anybody except for Grenell and a few businessmen as ambassadors to the region, and too few people to actually make a difference. The deep state department continued business as usual, including, practically toppling VMRO after Trump was elected. And eventually Mike Pompeo and everybody else endorsed the imposed name change in Macedonia, so we got nothing out of this. Maybe, if it was Hillary, Albanians would have been even more assertive, but and if Biden wins now, they will definitely feel emboldened, and the moment is now to press for maybe even territorial gains in the region. So Biden is announcing he will go against the leaders of Poland and Hungary. So basically more colored revolution in the region, like the one which brought down Gruevski. So definitely, the State Department will be far more aggressive in pushing to bring down people they don't like in the Balkans and in Europe, and elevate totalitarians they do like. So yeah, it's going to be, I'm pretty sure Albanians are going to vote for Biden and hope that they will cash in on this.
Yeah, that's true. But listening to you, Cvetin, it sounds like that in terms of U.S. policy with the upcoming elections vis-a-vis Macedonia, what Macedonians are hoping for is who will do the least amount of harm. Harm will be done, but who will do the least amount of harm? So, and it's always, I think we need to, you're right. Biden actually he's been to the region many times. He has taken an interest. He has supported Albanian causes wherever they are. Trump has no idea where Albania or Kosovo or Macedonia is. And so Trump, to the extent that he's been involved in all, it hasn't been him, of course. It's been the State Department. And not even Mike Pompeo. Pompeo was in Macedonia earlier this year, but it's not the secretary in the Trump administration that has anything to do with foreign policy in Macedonia or the Balkans. It's the permanent state, the bureaucratic state, the managerial state, the state, whatever you want to call it, the deep state, the administrative state is what I prefer. That these people like Phil Reeker and what's his name? Not Wes Mitchell, Matthew Palmer. People like that have been around for forever and a day. That have an agenda that benefits them personally, of course, in various different ways, and that's what they're pursuing. Doesn't matter who the State Department, who the Secretary of State is. But anyway, enough about U.S. policies towards the region and U.S. politics, and we'll know in 2.5 weeks. Well, the election will be held in 2.5 weeks, and at some point after that, we will probably know who the next president is. But what's the latest on Bulgaria? Because I'm writing my next column again on Bulgaria.
Again in Bulgaria?
Again, I kind of have to. It's I had a new angle. I can't remember what it was. I have to go back and look at it because I'm not done with it.
Wrote it down.
No, it's half. It's 3/4 written, but it was a good one. But I won't preview it here because I can't remember it. But we do know that. So the latest for listeners is that the quote-unquote intergovernmental commission on historical figures and blah, blah, blah between the Bulgarians and the Macedonians met last week. Various accounts were that it wasn't all was not happy in the meeting. And Zoran Zaev continues to say that everything is going to be fine. Dimitrov, on the other hand, Nikola Dimitrov, the former foreign minister and now the current minister for EU affairs and reading newspapers, sounds like he's willing, or he's ready to, or he's laying the ground to accept defeat in terms of Macedonia getting a veto from Bulgaria and not being able to open up or start EU accession talks later this fall. Is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah. There was a meeting in Skopje 2 day long, and apparently Bulgaria said, okay,
Today?
we're still. It ended yesterday.
Oh, yesterday.
What's today? Sunday, Saturday, Friday,
Sunday.
and Saturday.
Sunday morning. Good morning.
Morning, yes.
All right, that's old.
And back to Donchev, Bulgaria apparently made an offer, let's call him Bulgarian who was regionally Macedonian, who was Macedonian in the region in which he operated, but ethnically Bulgarian. Our guys would not accept this, but this is now just one of the many issues on the table. The Bulgarian president, the socialist Rumen Radev, now is joining the fray. He's saying that they would also not accept that Macedonia, begins accession talks without making these concessions. So the right is attacking the left in Bulgaria, saying that
Excellent.
the left has been too weak and willing to compromise on the issue. So now the left is joining the fray, saying, no, Borisov and the right may allow the Macedonians to open accession talks without giving Donchev and the name and identity and all the other things. So practically, it's like it became in Greece an intra-party issue between the two main parties in Greece. Now it's fully an issue between Borisov and Radev in Bulgaria. We are practically just a topic of discussion. We are not a factor. Whatever we do, basically, we can't influence this. It's just a fight between two parties in a country which has the veto power. We cannot change this. So they basically they can do what they want, fighting each other. Germany, the Bulgarian defense minister Karakachanov, he said that Germany is pressuring Bulgaria to give up. This is similar to what the Greeks would say often, like the US is pressuring us on the Skopjano issue, but we are not giving up. So now they're an important element of this storyline for the domestic audience is, look, I'm pressured by Angela Merkel or George Bush, but I'm the tough guy. I'm not going to give up. We have our national interests. I'm not relenting. But if this other guy, the socialist, wins, he would definitely give up on our national interests. So Mitskovsky is saying that Bulgaria, during this meeting between Zaev sent his foreign minister Bujar Osmani, so we have an Albanian and Bulgarians discussing Macedonian identity. And Mitskovsky is later saying that during this meeting, for which Zaev acknowledged that it did not go well, that Bulgaria asked for constitutional amendments, like Greece demanded a change to the name of the country in the constitution, a change in the preamble of the constitution, various articles of the constitution be amended. So now that Bulgaria wants the same. And this allegedly, now Bulgaria is not confirming this, allegedly this would include some clarification on the identity of the Macedonians and the language, maybe some reference to Bulgaria, maybe mention of, the Bulgarian Empire of Tsar Samuel in the preamble, because the preamble mentions historical portions, historical dates in Macedonian history. It still mentions Asnom, the founding of the assembly in World War II, which Bulgaria is pretty angry about and wants scrubbed, removed, redefined. They were even openly attacking Zaev for even mentioning on the 11th of October, when Macedonian partisans started fighting the Bulgarian forces in World War II, that they started this low-intensity guerrilla fight, that it's unacceptable that Macedonia even celebrates this date, which is, again, a huge issue for a country to say you can't celebrate your fight against, occupying fascists. Yeah, it's really a problem.
Bulgarian fascists, let's just make it clear.
I don't know how they're squaring. I mean, they have these lefty experts, commentators who cheered the collapse of, the toppling of Gruevski and the signing of the treaty. But now I feel that this is going too far. not for Macedonia's sake. They would like to see Macedonians declared as Bulgarians, but they're saying, okay, but our country is now openly, denying our role in World War II, and we can't have this because they're also, in their intra-party fights in Bulgaria between the left and the right. The left insists that the right were fascists, while the right insists that the left were pushovers on national issues. So, they're starting to fret about this, and these are all Soros people and the like, and they're complaining. But look, we can't go this far. We have to acknowledge our association with the Axis in World War II, and the right says no, Leroy Jenkins, we're full force ahead. So it's a really, it's an internal fight between the Bulgarians, and it can just affect us as blocking our accession talks.
Well, what's the take a step back here. What's the timeline? Here we are, the middle now of October. The Germans they have the presidency and through the end of the year. The goal is to open up talks with Macedonia and Albania, we should point out, sometime before the end of the year, and that the Albania issue is a separate one, of course. What are the next steps? What's the timeline look like? Zaev said he wanted to go to Bulgaria the other day to talk to Borisov, and I think he was turned down. So what's the timeline?
Yeah, Zaev keeps offering to go there, and Bulgarians keep ignoring him. That's funny. But Dimitrov is hoping that by the end of the year there is going to be what they call an intra-governmental conference, which means something like opening accession talks, but you apparently still don't get the chapters because the accession is divided into 37 chapters, which Bulgaria agrees anybody can block at the opening and closing, so 70 plus options to block the accession talks. So now Dimitrov, who, as you said, is really sounding defeatist on the issue, and maybe we should give up on the whole EU thing if that's how you feel about it. And exactly what we were in Vimero were saying. Okay, let's give up on the whole EU thing if that's how Greece is feeling. So he now says that we may not be able to open actual accession talks by late 2021, open actual chapters.
Wow.
So this is really now, postponing the thing over the horizon, and he's now running EU accession. So
right.
What little
now
there
is
is of that.
Is he playing good cop bad cop? Is he kind of trying to raise expectations that nothing's going to happen, and Zaev is, so he's the bad cop and Zaev's the good cop in a way, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. Or do you think he really feels like because if Dimitrov really actually in his heart believes that, I can't imagine that him sticking around in the government.
Yeah. I mean, this is all they. We got NATO membership out of all this, but who cares about that? Honestly,
Right.
The promise was EU, and you even have to pay into NATO, and this would be for what little security we got. I mean, we could talk for hours on Biden and Albanian nationalism and how the U.S. did nothing to stop this under various governments and administrations. So I don't know. I mean, what little positive feeling people had about the name change was that, maybe this means we join the EU and we get some money, and, this is apparently not happening. And but what's Dimitrov going to do? He was allegedly asking to be airlifted into some Massachusetts Avenue think tank and have a comfortable existence in D.C. And apparently he didn't get it. So
Well, I think he'll get that eventually. I think that he's the one out of the entire group of scoundrels and thieves that will be rewarded richly for his loyalty to the State Department and the EU and NATO.
There is Zaev is planning to send Ljubcha Georgievsky to Bulgaria. He says
What?
He will send the former prime minister who, was being persecuted after SDSM took over in 2002 after the war, under very similar circumstances. He had his government toppled by wiretapping, rogue intelligence officers, etc. many of his people were arrested, Georgievsky's people, and to protect himself, he practically got a Bulgarian citizenship, probably, shared what little state secrets we have that they didn't already know, that the whole world didn't already know with them. Maybe Bulgaria was hoping that at some point he would become like a political figure, openly pro-Bulgarian. He never actually got around to doing that. He's doesn't have much of a following, but he has joined SDSM with his party. He supports them, and he makes comments that we should he would say stuff like, well, in VMRO, there are people who feel this way about Bulgaria. This old line from SDSM that people from VMRO are pro-Bulgarian, which is now turned completely on its head with Zaev. But Georgievsky would still go out to try to harm VMRO by saying, look, there is pro-Bulgarians in VMRO, like chastising them.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a very funny situation that after SDSM has invested so heavily in tarnishing Georgievsky as a corrupt and pro-Bulgarian politician, now they send him as their envoy to Bulgaria. And there was some comment from Bulgaria saying, well, listen, we don't want him to come to persuade us. We want him to stay there and, to be more lenient toward you. Yeah, he should be there and tell you that you're Bulgarians.
As a side note, since we're talking about Lukov, his sidekick Dan Donchev, I see, was he invited to come speak to the internal police, or there was talk about that or something? I didn't read.
Donchev, no, that was Donchev was once interrogated briefly by. There was this time when a VMRO official ran the interior ministry before the elections. And this is when the wiretaps broke about Donchev, and he was summoned to the precinct, so that the way it works here, the police, at some instances, when the SDSM runs the state prosecutors, but a police inspector can initiate an interrogation and file charges to the prosecutors, and this is what an inspector did. He was interrogated, but, he was quickly... They can't arrest him without the prosecutor approving this, and obviously the SDSM and prosecution service would never, go this way. So I think he's still in the country. There were some pictures recently of him having a party down south, where in Strumica region, I think, where he comes from, and no investigation, Zaev will not touch him, that's for sure.
Right.
Zaev plans on sending his now very trusted Albanian Lieutenant Muhammad Zakiri to lead the healthcare fund. So, Zaev would continue to have a direct confidant running the...
Zakiri is going to run the healthcare fund?
Yeah. And it's always two people, one from the ruling party, which is Macedonian, and it's always a Macedonian, one from the Albanian coalition partner. It's like co-chairmanship of this huge fund, which... single-payer healthcare, all the healthcare, 90% of funding goes through there. So now there's going to be two Albanians there. And you can imagine there was even corruption before, people from Kosovo, from Albania coming to Macedonia want to get treated as citizens, and they would bribe somebody. We actually had a deputy healthcare minister, an Albanian, resign because he was recorded asking for a bribe from an Albanian and taking it. But now, you can imagine what these two guys will be doing.
Well, there's that. Then also Zakiri, of course, is the citizen vice president, but an ethnic Albanian, hates Dewey. If Dewey's sending somebody over to be the junior, the deputy, and Zakiri's, that'll be fun.
Yeah, they'll be spying on each other.
Spy versus spy. It's like a Mad Comics thing. Oh, boy. Okay, well, gosh. Let's see.
Speaking of healthcare, it's a complete disaster.
Yes. 10 deaths today, I think.
That's a big one. I think the most was 15, but usually it's like 3 to 5 a day. But that's not the bad number. The bad number is now it's getting colder, everybody's having the sniffles, etc. So people are getting tested more often. It's like flu season, like the actual flu season.
Twindemic,
yes. Yeah, and before, 2 weeks ago, the most we would have like in a day would be 250 positive cases, and this would be after the Muslim month where
Ramadan.
a lot of partying was going on, etc. Ramadan.
Yep.
Like 10 days ago, the number started spiking, and we had like so it was 250. We had one day was 300. The next day was 390. The day after was 450. The day after was 550. Like by 100 it grows. It reached I think a little under 600, 590 or something. And then this is the weekend now, so they're scaling down testing. But we still have like 400 tests come back positive out of, let's say, 1,800. So tomorrow there will be like 2,600 tests a day, and very easily we'll go through 600. So we went from 250, a high, like the maximum number, and it would often be like 80, 100, something like that, new cases a day. Now we routinely have 500, 400, up to 600. Wow. So the numbers are spiking very, very seriously. Yeah. And it's affecting, the hospitals are full. These two hospitals that are set aside for corona, one of them is full. There is, they're preparing a field hospital for this. There is 5,500, I think, active cases. Normally it would be like 2,000 up to 3,000. Okay, most of these people have light symptoms. There is like 15 people admitted to a hospital each day. But this is like a complete disaster now.
Yeah. And the government is meeting soon, I believe, or maybe they already did, to talk about new measures to deal with this. Are we looking at lockdowns or what?
Well, they had a meeting of this infectious diseases committee, and they recommended a mandate on masks even when you're outside by yourself in the street, like a lunatic. You need to wear a mask in case you meet somebody. And then there's also these winter parties, like a religious feast, like St. Nicola, which, every family has a feast, and people gather, like you have 20, 30, 50 people, 100 people in some cases. So this is obviously a factor. So the government said, okay, we're banning this. You can have at most 4 guests in the house and 4 household members. And, people like Antonio Miloševski and Vlatko Đorđev were like, hello, I have 4 or 5 children. Yeah. do I leave 2 of them outside in the cold? But this is when it got really totalitarian. The government said, we're going to ask people to spy on their neighbors.
Lovely.
And call. And this was, I asked, okay, are they supposed to call the actual police, like the 911 number,
right.
192 in Macedonia, and report on their neighbors? Is it going to be like a separate number? Do they post this on Facebook? Like my neighbor at that apartment, this and that, is having more than 4 visitors. So it was really ugly. As a proposal, it was not accepted by the government. The government even was pushing with the U.S. Embassy to open the borders with Bulgaria, Greece, but mostly with the mini Schengen zone, like Montenegro, Serbia, Kosovo, Albania, and Albania is open, and Bosnia. And out of all this number started spiking. They opened the border with Kosovo, which means many healthcare tourists, visitors, and many shopping visitors to the city mall in Skopje, which is one of the stupidest things you can do with these numbers. But apparently, much of the lockdowns are driven by business interests. So if hospitals and shopping malls pay to the government, I have no doubt this is the way it works. They open the border.
Right.
So now we have an open border with Kosovo and Albania, and closed borders with everybody else. We need to have a test and la-di-da. So I'm not sure if they'll be restricting. They're talking about curfews and all that, but I'm not sure if it's happening. They're even relaxing.
Yeah, the spring, we remember the 72, 96-hour curfews, 108 hours, whatever they were. There was some ridiculous, like Thursday to Tuesday type stuff where you literally could not leave your bloody home. That's what, I wonder if Macedonia is heading back towards that again. And of course, I have selfish interest in this. I want to come there this winter, but I'm not going to come there if I got to sit in the house from Thursday afternoon to Tuesday morning and can't leave. Because when I come there, I come and visit my people, my peoples, my friends. We'll just have to kind of monitor that. Although you just said something curious. You said the government was working with the U.S. Embassy on opening the borders.
They said it themselves for no good reason. They said the U.S. Embassy is helping us on this, coordinating through the
What does the U.S. Embassy have to do with it?
Embassy. They're the government in this country.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yes. I momentarily forgot.
You keep forgetting, yes.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know what to say on that.
And, and Filipče, the healthcare minister who was so heavily invested in him, SDSM invested, building him up, propping him up. He's a crook, he's a criminal, he has all these corruption scandals, including with then Donchev extorting healthcare providers, building huge real estate across the city, involved in the original racket scandal with Boki and Dorce Kamchev and everybody. And he went political. So Wimmer is obviously having a press conference each day and says, look, it's either, shedding light on some of his corruption or, just pointing to the fact that the numbers are dismal.
Right.
And normally SDSM would respond through a political spokesman, but a few days ago they had Filipče actually tweet a picture of some Vimera people gathering, and most of them were not wearing masks. And he says, look at the Vimera people, they call for my resignation, but look what they're doing. Now this is hugely frowned upon because he literally holds the power of life or death over people. And usually when the interior minister or the healthcare minister does this, SDSM was very in our faces about this. When Vimera held the departments, they would insist that these departments need to be beyond political, like not sink that low. And we now have, it's a disaster, it's a complete collapse of the whatever policies we put in place, etc. There was tremendous abuse of the restrictions. So like there was a police unit following the opposition leader while there were these huge Ramadan iftar dinners in the Muslim quarters. Nobody was obstructing these, but we had the police raid a gym where Mickovsky, the opposition leader, was allegedly exercising, turned out fake. Then they raided a restaurant where he was having a lunch, like 2 days after a new restriction was put that you can't sit at this table, you have to sit at that table, and he was sitting at this table. And
it's a Monty Python skit.
It was a complete abuse of the police and the inspectors. And now the minister is, plumbing the depths of complete partization after being for a very long time this non-partisan figure. And then what happened was, this was real ugly. There was a young doctor who died in a car crash, and he was the head of the COVID ward in one of the hospitals. There are 2 clinics, but there is a children's hospital in Skopje also set for children who get the virus and their parents. And so he was apparently the head of this department. And he had a car crash. And then was taken. Some say it may have been heart attack while driving. Others say, overworking and, when driving when you're sleepy, etc. People saw him. I don't think he got out of the car. I guess he looked like confused, and while he was driving, some said he hit somebody and then tried to flee. Others said that he looked drugged up or drunk, and obviously this is what Twitter went with immediately. And you could obviously confuse all these symptoms with being sleepy and exhausted on the wheel and having an accident, and maybe even having a heart attack. So everybody posted this. Look at it came after an actual drunken accident in which a young boy was killed. So everybody was like, "Stop this, idiots!
Right.
Let's have massive police testing of drivers, etc." Which is ongoing. And then everybody started deleting the tweets, obviously. It became clear that this was a doctor and he was probably overworked. But then he was also prominent SDSM activist, colored revolution stuff, etc. So SDSM had this commemoration for him. They took out this protest car they were driving during the colored revolution. So he was like not only a heroic doctor, but hero of the colored revolution, which is by now completely disgraced and discredited. And then, they would find somebody on Facebook, like, in any country, people would do posts like, who cares, he was a communar, he was with the left. And then this would get emphasized enormously in the media. Like, look what this Vimera person wrote. It may be a fake profile. And then somebody made like a disgusting Instagram profile of this doctor. And I'm 100% sure this was done in SDSM because they were pushing this story so hard. Mm-hmm. Like, look at the Vimera people. We have a heroic young doctor, young father, gets killed. And look how Vimera is responding. So this is, what they're thinking of. It's now a complete politicization of the issue. Mm. It makes sense that the opposition does this, but when the ruling party does this, it's obviously a much bigger issue.
Wow. Well, that's a lengthy description there, but it's incredibly sad. Thoughts and prayers go out to his family, of course. Mm. But, and then you have one less doctor to work on this massive coronavirus problem that just won't go away for whatever reason. I mentioned earlier I was talking to my friend in Estonia, and they've got very low cases. He says nobody wears masks. They do their social distancing and whatnot, but pretty much life just goes on. And why that is, I'm baffled, to be honest. I don't know. They've got Estonia's 51 deaths per million population, and Macedonia's at what, 400 and something?
820 deaths, 410 maybe.
Yeah, so...
And counting our inflated population count.
Oh yes, I forgot about the census, the lack of a census, which is supposed to be next year. Even, and just kind of looking ahead, frankly, we know what's going on in terms of, our lives being disrupted by this, and masks and social distancing and other rules, etc., even as they work on a vaccine. And the vaccine supposedly will come in the spring, and then it'll take time to get it to everybody. So basically we're looking at living this way through the middle to late next year, and yet, and the government needs to have a census, obviously, because a census hasn't been conducted in Macedonia since 2002. Official population roughly 2.1 million, actual probably 1.6 million. But how are you going to have a census? Forget the politics of it all. Set that aside. In the middle of a continuing pandemic. Now, maybe by spring, when it's supposed to be held in the springtime, correct?
In April.
Yeah. So maybe by then things will clear up. Obviously, by April, weather's getting better. Be out of the flu cold season, hopefully. But yeah, man.
And there are some creative things. We always try to look on the positive side. There was with education and stuff. there is a push by SDSM. They have like 2 members of parliament. One of them is really sick. One of them has it. Couple from Vimera. And you need 61 to just hold a session of parliament. Mm-hmm. And if it's something unpalatable to Vimera can just abstain, and the other opposition and SDSM can't even hold a session. Mm. So SDSM says, okay, let's have an online parliament, which the constitution does not, strictly says, we have to gather at one place.
Right.
And the word is sobrania, it means a gathering place. Yeah. So there was somebody says, okay, well, if you're doing an online parliament, can't we just cut the middleman and, we can have the entire adult population of the country online and voting on the proposal? Why do we need members of parliament?
It's very Swiss.
Yeah.
Where everybody gets a vote. So, what's the purpose of a parliament then if you've got all the citizens voting? So.
You had to send a small town in the provinces needs to send a representative to the capital to meet with the king and confer daily, and the purpose is practically lost. So we can just, and then there is this. So we are hounding Vimera people who attend parties. There is Amdi Bayram, who's now with SDSM, obviously, the Roma politician. And he says, I'm having a wedding. He invites people, and the wedding invitation leaks to the public online for his granddaughter, I think. And he says, we're having a wedding, blah, blah. 600 people expected to attend. And there is outrage online. Journalists call him. He says, no, okay, fine, I'm not doing this. And I'm going to respect the restrictions. And today we have the pictures that he actually flew several hundred people to Istanbul.
Wow.
And they chartered a boat, and they had a huge wedding on a boat.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
And also we opened the border with Kosovo. So we have the mayor of Centar, the downtown, the most urban, the most, elite district of Skopje. And the mayor is Sasha Bogdanovic, who is this complete Serbian nationalist guy, when Serbia plays, he supports Serbia. He would even support in messages like Serbian war criminals suspected in The Hague, etc. And he's in coalition in SDSM, in coalition with Albanian parties, and he has a semi-Albanian party he's a member of. Okay, fine. So he meets a girl during one of these gatherings in Kosovo, Serbian gatherings in Gračanica, falls in love, marries her today in the Gračanica monastery, and there are pictures out. The wedding party, nobody wears a mask. They go to, heavy corona-infected Kosovo, from heavy corona-infected Macedonia, and there is a person there in full medieval armor.
I'm looking at the picture now.
Yeah. And he's the only person wearing a mask.
Well, there's a little girl apparently who, little children don't need it.
Yeah.
She's got a mask, and then the knight obviously he's in full heavy metal.
Yeah. And the most interesting thing here is that, we Macedonians are not allowed to have any displays of national pride, etc.
Right.
And this guy is in charge of, they removed several monuments. They're putting plaques on other monuments in his municipality saying this is not a Macedonian, this is a Greek monument, blah, blah, blah. And so he's the point man, at least, on the ground, not the ideological, but the technical ground, to remove monuments to Macedonian national heritage and patrimony. But of course, as a Serb, he gets to go to Gračanica and Serb on to the max. Dojaja, as the Serbs would say.
Yeah, he's got the flag there behind the wedding party, and
yeah.
I'm looking at the knight, and I'm not entirely sure of the relationship for the knight to the wedding party, but he's got a shield with two red-winged dragons on it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what that. I'm not.
That's the Battle of Kosovo reference.
Oh, that
sure.
is okay.
That's the monastery is at the site of the Battle of Kosovo,
Okay.
and Christian protectors of Europe,
Yeah.
And all that good stuff. But and again, he's in coalition with Albanians, so
Weird.
who they fought with over Kosovo.
Yes. Oh goodness. Okay. Well, what else we got?
We have Lydia Dimova.
yes.
Did you check that
Yeah.
out? SDSM are preparing to throw one of their own under the bus. The director of the education fund, like they manage EU funding
This is the
for
Erasmus.
Macedonian kids going to study in European Union universities, and she's this very obnoxious colored revolution activist, NGO person, always going to all the talk shows, protecting SDSM in this shrill voice. She was driving a truck, and police would stop her during the colored revolution, and she would scream at the police, etc. So she was appointed to this position, and immediately she's purchasing luxury vehicles for herself, giving grants to cousins, relatives, friends, because they were all colored revolution people. Obviously, these are the type of people who would apply for scholarships or who would have an stupid educational institution which would be granted and which would receive grants. So she gives 270,000 to a friend of hers who doesn't even bother to register his company, NGO, at a separate address, but registers it through the same company through which he owns a hair salon. So 270,000 euros in education grants to a hair salon. and this lady is out saying, no, but we have the right to give money to a hair salon to train hairstylists, but in this case, we gave it for him to educate people on media literacy or some other bogus made up profession. And the interesting thing is that SDSM is throwing her under the bus. She's obviously
Toxic.
the elite Skopje wing of SDSM. They could protect her easily. They had their journalists, SDSM supporting journalists from Strumica, from the Strumica wing, published these allegations, and now the Deputy Prime Minister Zaev, confident, Ljubčo Nikolovsky, says you must resign. So there is infighting between the separate wings of the party, the Zaev wing and the Shekerinska wing. There is also the resignation of Damian Manchevsky, one of the most prominent Skopje wing people. He left politics for some very well-paid job in some private company, which I suppose expects to get government contracts with him. But yeah, there definitely Zaev is taking over the party in much more forceful manner. And this couldn't happen to a nicer person. She used to write on Facebook that she has wiretaps against me. And, I responded, okay, I'm being blackmailed. I call her, what's in the wiretaps. Oh, the people will know what they know, Okay, fine. So I start insulting her publicly just to say I'm not afraid, because she says, I have evidence. I have tapes about you, which you may want to keep hidden. But then after a while I realize she gets into an argument with some leftist journalist who lives close to her office about a parking space with all the new cars she was buying for the office. And he complains, listen, you're usurping our parking, we were not supposed to be about this, we colored revolution people. And she says, I have wiretaps about you, be careful what you say about me. So a complete nut job, and it couldn't happen to a nicer person.
Wow. Well, and is the party, or is she getting a little pushback from the European Union because it's their taxpayer euros that we're talking about here?
Yes, but only after an SDSM journalist, this Tanya Milevsky in Brussels, called up on so she goes to the EU Commission briefing. She could ask about anything. She could ask them about Zaev's corruption, maybe, and they would give an answer. It's her right to, shed a light to a topic or just destroy it by not mentioning it. And in this case, it's very notable. But she asks. Obviously, the EU is going to say we express our concern, and we're observing this, we're looking into this. Thanks for bringing this to our attention, blah, blah. So she opens this issue. She ignores huge scandals, other scandals, but, Borian Jovanovski and Tanya Milevska obviously attacked, went after Lydia Dimova. So, this tells you that she is being destroyed by her own. Obviously, Vemera people are having fun with this, but this is an intra-SDSM fight. An indicative of Zaev strengthening his position against people who he really doesn't like anyway, these far-left NGO types.
Well, that goes back to what we've talked about and written about for years, and it's a truth that the revolution always devours its own. So, and
colored revolution included.
Exactly, yeah. It might take a little time and take a little longer than we want, but eventually they eat each other alive.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a full wrap.
Okay, we closed it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, good. We'll convene again, next week, 10 days, and do it all over again. And maybe I'll be a little more prepared next time.